The sun has risen, the breeze is gentle, and a brand new page is waiting to be written. This is your moment to pause, breathe, and lean into the promise of a fresh start. Hi there, everyone. Welcome to this Sunday's edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. We have a wonderful show packaged just for you. More after these messages.
Did you know that there are certain areas across Jamaica where sounding your car horn or making loud noise from your vehicles is an offense? Under the Road Traffic Regulations 2022, the authority may declare specific areas as silent zones. These zones are created to protect peace, especially around hospitals, schools, nursing homes, and other sensitive locations. In these silent zones, once the notice has been published, no loud noise can come from your vehicle, and no horn or warning device should be sounded during the specified hours. If you do, you're committing an offense. Now, there are important exceptions. If blowing your horn is reasonably required to prevent a collision, you will not be penalized. And of course, this rule does not apply to emergency vehicles. So, the next time you approach a silent zone, be mindful of the restrictions and abide by them.
A lot of times when we're feeding our children, we associate them with snacks and juices. But we have to remember that they're human beings, they're growing, and they need wholesome foods. So whatever it is that you put in, that is what you will get out. Food is fuel for the body and the mind. So if you're putting in garbage, garbage is going to come out. I know it's frustrating as parents because we just want the children to eat, but sometimes we need to dig a little bit deeper. Children shouldn't be having more than 6 teaspoons of sugar per day. So 6 4 is 24, that's about 24 grams of sugar. So if you look at the nutrition facts label, you'll realize that most of these box of juices that we're giving the children are excessive in terms of the sugar that they're consuming. And then we wonder why the children won't sit and stay still. And I mean, even with the snacks that we're giving them, a lot of them are empty calories. So it has a lot of salt and fat and coloring, and there are issues with the coloring as well. So we want to ensure that we take away a lot of those excessive juices. I feel that we think children have to have juice, and that's a big misnomer. They really don't need juice. Water is just fine. As the adults that have the handle, let us do as best as we can to encourage a healthy lifestyle in the children.
March is observed as Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. In this week's episode of Get the Facts, we're sitting down with a doctor to find out the risks and what can be done. Let's join in on the conversation.
Welcome to Get the Facts, the show that gives you information on what you need to know. March is being observed as Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. Now, it's a time dedicated to spreading information about one of the leading causes of cancer-related deaths worldwide. But what exactly is colorectal cancer? Who is at risk? And more importantly, how can it be prevented? Colorectal cancer affects the colon and the rectum, parts of the large intestine that play a critical role in digestion. When abnormal cells grow uncontrollably in this area, they can develop into cancer. The good news, however, is that colorectal cancer is one of the most preventable cancers if detected early. Today on Get the Facts, we're breaking down what you need to know about colorectal cancer, and joining me is Dr. Mike Mills, gastroenterologist at Phoenix Gastroenterology and Health Services. Dr. Mills, welcome.
Thank you, appreciate that.
All right, so we said some stuff in the intro,
yes,
and I'd like us to interrogate it a little bit. But before we do that, just give us a fulsome, not fulsome, give us a nice definition of what is colorectal cancer and how does it develop in the body, how and where.
So, as you did mention in your lead-up, which is a quite accurate definition.
Right.
Colorectal cancer is cancer of the large bowel, which has 2 parts mainly, the colon and then the rectum, which is the very last part of the intestine.
Right.
So cancer is uncontrolled cell growth, and when that happens, the tissue that is supposed to be in one area basically stops growing in the defined area and spreads to other areas outside. And this is essentially what a cancer is. So large bowel cancer or colorectal cancer is what we're looking at this time.
That definition gave a certain visual not a pleasant visual, but we're getting the facts. So we hear a lot about prostate cancer.
Yes.
Not so much about colorectal cancer, but it is quite prevalent. Is that accurate?
Yes, and more and more we're hearing about colorectal cancer if you think about it. So in the news over the last few years, quite a few people would have been familiar with also the Marvel movies, and the case of Chadwick Boseman, for example.
Right.
So he was a Black Panther character, and he was actually diagnosed with colorectal cancer, and that's how he died. So it has been more and more focused in the news media, and people are more and more aware of it, and that's why we're trying to raise awareness even more, because raising awareness is important in trying to get people to understand how it develops, take steps to prevent it, because it is preventable, and also to make sure that when it does present, it's pretty early, because the outcomes are better when it's detected earlier.
We'll get to early detection, but who is most at risk? Is there a risk group?
We tend to look at the risk in two different strategies. So average risk individuals and then higher risk individuals.
Okay.
So everyone, males and females, do have a colon, of course, or large intestine. And one of the major risk factors is age. So the older you get, is the more likely it is that you will develop colorectal cancer. So an average risk individual would be somebody who does not have a significant family history, meaning their first degree relatives, for example, mother, father, brothers, sisters, don't have cancer of the colon. And it's certainly not something that develops in a young age group.
Okay.
So that's somebody who's high risk, somebody who has a very strong history of things like, for example, smoking or alcohol use excessively, who doesn't have a diet which is very good in terms of fiber. So if your diet is poor in terms of your fiber consumption, that increases your risk. If you have very fatty foods, red meat is a particular strong risk factor. Processed meat, so things like ham and bacon, can also be considered strong risk factors for colorectal cancer.
Right.
And then some medical conditions as well, inflammatory bowel disease, which is not as common, but is also associated with colorectal cancer. So these are higher risk individuals. There's some genetic predispositions as well. So sometimes in individuals who are born with multiple polyps in the colon, or develop polyps, which are these small warty growths in the colon which can cause cancer, that also significantly increases your risk for colorectal cancer. So outside of these high risk groups, everyone else would be considered average risk.
Right.
And the risk profile is important to know where you fit, because it will determine the steps that you take in terms of trying to do screening.
All right. So are there any signs that you can detect from an early stage that, hey, something is happening here?
Okay, so one of the key things we want to get across to individuals is that waiting for signs is not the way to look at colon cancer. But definitely there are signs, and the early ones that present will be a change in the bowel habit. So because the colon is your conduit for passing stool,
Right.
of course, once there's something sitting in the bowel like a cancer, it's going to disrupt the way you normally pass stool. So any change in your bowel pattern is to be noted. Whether it's constipation, which is more common because of obstruction, really, then that's something to note. It could be an early sign. Blood in the stool, always something to be considered, even though most cases of bleeding is not due to cancer. But of course, if there is blood there, cancer could be one of the things to pay attention to. So those are the early things. There's some later presenting features as well, depending on where the cancer is ending up. So jaundice, for example, weight loss, things that affect your appetite, those are the later signs. The earlier ones, of course, would be of change in the bowel habit and, of course, blood in the stool.
Blood in the stool, okay. In the intro, we mentioned that it's one of the most preventable. That's accurate.
It is definitely one of the most preventable. When we talk about cancers, we always want to find things that can prevent cancer. And colorectal cancer is very important because we identify the stage before cancer, remove that from the colon, and then prevent cancer. Because we know that most cancers start as polyps, which are these small warty growths in the bowel. Yes.
Right.
So if you can find the polyp and remove it, then you can improve the likelihood of not developing colon cancer. Now, it is something that we recognize not all patients who have polyps will go on to cancer, of course.
Right.
Lots of polyps are not significant enough, but still we can't tell until we do the test.
Sure.
But in terms of prevention, definitely. Apart from lifestyle changes, looking for polyps and removing them is a major preventative step.
Lifestyle changes. Doc, how do you find the polyps?
Okay, so talking about screening now.
Yes.
And when you talk about screening, we're looking for a condition pretty early in the process or even before it develops, so you can intervene and change the outcome. So to find a polyp, that means that you need to be looking inside the bowel because that's where it's growing. And to look inside the bowel, most of the tests that we do either are directly invasive, so a colonoscopy, where we pass a camera directly into the bowel, or it could be indirect, so you're doing like a CAT scan or a CT, which takes a picture of the bowel from outside and allows you to see the inside surface indirectly as well. So these are the usual ways of finding polyps. Sometimes polyps can also bleed depending on how big they are. So you can identify a change in the bowel by looking for blood in the stool, which is not specific enough and sometimes not sensitive enough for polyps, but is a good way of doing screening to detect either early stages or very large polyps, for example. So these are the usual ways that we identify the polyps.
Got it. We're going to take a break now. We're going to take a break, and please stay with us. We're discussing colorectal cancer, and after the break, we look at what can be done to prevent this cancer. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Know your numbers and control the keys to a healthier heart. Know the numbers for your blood pressure, cholesterol level, blood glucose level, and your weight and body mass index. Find out the risks they represent and what you need to do to stay healthy. Talk to your doctor and start making healthy lifestyle choices to prevent a heart attack or stroke.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. We're observing Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month and discussing what Jamaicans need to know about prevention, screening, and early detection. Before the break, we explored what colorectal cancer is and who is at risk, and of course, screening. And we'd like to pick up with screening there.
Yes.
Dr. Mills, so what's a normal screening schedule?
Okay, so important to recognize that age is one of the factors that we use to determine screening, and that specific age that is determined by your risk profile.
Right.
So know what your risk is. Are you average risk or are you high risk?
Okay.
If you're average risk individual, screening starts at age 45 and above. So this means that you need to do one of those approved screening tests. And the screening tests for colorectal cancer are looking for blood in the stool, and this is a lab test, or doing a colonoscopy, which is where a specialist looks inside the bowel directly, or doing a CAT scan of the colon, which is a radiological test to look indirectly at the bowel. These are the usual ways of doing screening available locally.
Right.
Outside of that, knowing if you're a high-risk individual, your screening is going to change a little bit. So because high-risk individuals tend to have cancer earlier, that means your screening starts before 45 in most cases. We use the age on which the individual's relative was first diagnosed with colon cancer to determine when to start screening.
Right.
So if it's 10 years before the age of diagnosis and it's less than 45, then we would start at that age. So for example, if your relative was diagnosed at age 50 with colorectal cancer, which is still within an early stage, you would start screening 10 years before. And we do that to age 40 because it takes about 10 years for polyps to develop into cancer. It's not an overnight thing. So we know that there's some leeway that we have in trying to identify the polyps, remove them, and prevent the development of cancer.
So is this like what, once a year?
Screening interval varies depending on which test you choose. So if it's a stool test for blood, that has to be done annually, for example, and it's an appropriate frequency. So if it's a regular stool test for blood, it's 3 times that you need to send a sample. If it's the newer test, which is a FIT test or immunochemical test, that's done once a year. If it's a colonoscopy, it's every 10 years, and it's every 10 years if we don't find anything at the first interval. So when you do your first test for colonoscopy, we don't see any polyps, for example, we wait 10 years to look again.
Right.
If we did find a polyp, depending on the type of polyp, then we shorten interval. It could be 1 year, it could be 3 years, it could be 5 years. It depends on what we find. So if it's a CT that you're doing, then it's every 5 years. So the interval will vary, but you need to know exactly which test to select and also how to follow up.
Right, right. That time frame for screening, I think, is pretty encouraging to somebody who is watching.
Yes.
In our first segment, you mentioned fatty foods,
Yes.
red meats, that sort of thing, lifestyle that can impact the development of this condition.
That's right.
What sorts of lifestyle changes? And I know that's a broad question, so let me narrow it a little bit. We in Jamaica sometimes believe that, there's a superfood that you can eat and it stops you. Is there a food that we should be focusing on, or is it a larger lifestyle?
It's definitely a larger lifestyle picture. There's no one food that's going to make you not develop colon cancer or to reduce your risk in that sense.
Right.
It's a general approach to health.
Okay.
So we recommend cutting back on fatty foods, avoiding red meat and processed meat in large quantities, for example, making sure that alcohol consumption is minimal to nil. Smoking definitely is a no-no. I mean, not just for colon cancer, but all cancers definitely.
Right.
And then making sure that the weight is down. So obesity is a risk factor as well. So exercise, cutting back on things that contribute to weight gain, like sugar-sweetened beverages, for example. Exercising, all of these lifestyle changes are definitely important. Outside of that, having whole foods. So having enough fiber, grown provisions, fresh fruits, vegetables, water, these are key components of reducing your risk for colon cancer and just improving gut health generally.
Right.
Sometimes individuals will do things like try to find alternate means of fixing the bowel, for example. Not that we're discouraging individuals from having alternative forms of therapy, but it's just that the evidence that any of these alternative forms are beneficial is a little weak. So we definitely want to stick to things that we know are tried and true. Make sure that your fiber is there. Cutting back on the processed foods and having a healthy diet is important.
And what's nice about what you've said, it's not that you even need to do these things just because you're afraid of colorectal cancer. It's for a good life.
It's for a good life, definitely.
Overall. So, Doc, we found it. It is there. The polyps are there. They're cancerous. What treatment?
Okay, let me just correct that for you. So the polyp is not cancer.
Right.
Polyp is separate from cancer.
Okay.
So if you found a polyp, you'd have removed it to prevent cancer.
Ah.
Yes.
So it's the cells out of place, if I can put it that way.
Right. So there's a progression from polyps to cancer. But once the cancer is there, then yes, it's established, and we need to be doing something about it at that stage.
What is that something? Again, we in Jamaica might say, hey, bush can cure everything. What is the recommended something?
Right, so the recommended thing is not bush, because unfortunately we do have individuals who, for whatever reason, they're not comfortable with whatever traditional options are available, and they do seek alternative therapies like bush. We do have individuals who come back, however, having gone that route and had a worse outcome because they've not accessed treatment early.
Right.
So we recommend definitely seeing your surgeon, your oncologist. Surgery is one of the primary means of getting rid of the cancer, removing a part of the bowel that's affected by the cancer, and the extent really depends on how large the cancer is and where it is. Outside of surgery, chemotherapy, and the chemotherapy can happen before the surgery or after the surgery. Sometimes before the surgery to reduce the size of the tumor so that not so much surgery has to be done, and the outcomes are very good in that regard. Sometimes depending on where the cancer is, if it's in the rectum, you may need radiotherapy as well. So these are the traditional treatments which are available. And the earlier you pick up the cancers, the less extensive your treatment needs to be. And that's important. So less surgery if you pick it up early, and you pick it up early if you do things like screening, for example.
Right, at the right time and for the right risk profile.
Correct.
All right, Dr. Mills, we're in the final moments of this interview. What else do we need to know about colorectal cancer and our responsibility?
Okay, so the important thing is that colorectal cancer is the third most common cause of cancer-related death in Jamaica, so it's very common both for men and women. It's something that you need to be sensitized to and not to wait for symptoms before you start to think about it. Just like how you do your screening for pap smear, your mammogram for cervical and breast cancer, PSA for prostate cancer, you must think about screening for the colon. The access for screening tests right now is improving. Doing a stool test for blood is the most accessible way of starting your screening, and then going on to more direct tests like your colonoscopy or your CT scan, for example, of the colon, to look for evidence of tumors. Pick them up early, because early detection leads to a better outcome. Reducing your displacement from things like your regular work, less impact on yourself and your family, the economy, all things are better if you prevent it, which is preventable, and then also pick it up early so that your impact is reduced and your outcomes are much better.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mills. Screen as you need based on what is appropriate for your risk profile. Live right.
Correct.
Eat healthily.
Yes.
And when it is time to treat with it, if it does appear, listen to your doctor.
Amen.
And with that, we'll close. I want to thank Dr. Mills for taking the time to share with us. Colorectal cancer is serious, but it is also one of the most preventable and treatable forms of cancer when detected early. We're underlining that. This March, let's move beyond awareness. Let's act. Talk to your doctor, learn your family history, schedule a screening. It could save your life. This has been Get the Facts, and I'm Theodore Henry. As always, thanks for joining us.
Here's an important reason you need to avoid or limit alcohol consumption. The World Health Organization (WHO) indicates that there is research evidence of a direct link between several cancers and alcohol consumption as a major contributing factor. It's being cited as a major contributing fact for cancer of the breast, colorectal, esophagus, liver, mouth, throat or pharynx, and voice box or larynx. There is no safe level of alcohol consumption, and the more you consume, the greater your risk. Protect your health. Limit your alcohol intake. Save your life. For help and more information, call the National Council on Drug Abuse (NCDA) at 876-564-HELP. That's 876-564-4357.
March is also being observed as Nutrition Month, a timely reminder that what we put on our plates today shapes the strength, focus, and future of our children tomorrow. Because every lunch box packed, every balanced meal prepared, is really an investment in growing minds and thriving bodies. In this next feature, we explore the best nutrition for children. Take a look.
A lot of times when we're feeding our children, we associate them with snacks and juices. But we have to remember that they're human beings, they're growing, and they need wholesome foods. So whatever it is that you put in, that is what you will get out. Food is fuel for the body and the mind. So if you're putting in garbage, garbage is going to come out.
Good nutrition is the foundation for healthy growing children. The foods our children eat provide energy for learning, play, and strong development of their bodies and minds. And these need to come from all the food groups.
We have 6 different food groups in Jamaica, so we want to ensure that they're eating a little bit from each different food group. Keep in mind that children might not want to eat all of the same things all the time, but we want to ensure that they're just getting a little bit from each day. Toddlers will require more fats and carbohydrates because they're moving up a little bit more, they're more energetic. But when you become a teenager now, you're now working on different aspects of the body. So muscle building and growth, also hormones come into play. So we want to focus more on protein at that stage of life.
And these will look different for children at unique stages of life.
Usually for children, I know we would say that they would take fats and oils and sweets sparingly, but you want to ensure that their foods are protein rich with fat. So for example, you're going to be having your nuts, your peanuts, your avocados. When you're talking about energy, you want to be looking at a lot of carbs. So yes, we want them to have their grains, so their rice and their breads and their cereals, as well as, you know, the ground provisions. And then when you get to the teenage stage, you want to make sure that they're having more meats. If they're vegetarian, more peas and beans.
But too often, parents will instead opt for the quick snacks and sweet juices right off the shelves, not realizing that these aren't giving children the best start, but causing malnutrition in them.
Malnutrition as a whole can be overnutrition or undernutrition. So back in the day, we were focused on undernutrition, so we had to be supplementing the children, making sure that they have more. These days, we recognize that children are having more overnutrition, so a lot of refined carbs and too much sugar. So we realize that they're not having enough of their proteins and the unrefined carbohydrates as they should. So we realize that they're not focusing as well. They're having a little bit of lower attention spans. They're not learning as well. It comes from the environment, but the food has a lot to do with it.
Snacks like chips, cookies, and sugary drinks may taste good, but they are often loaded with salt and sugar, offering very little of the vitamins and minerals children need. Juices, even the ones that look healthy, don't have the fiber of whole fruits, and the sugar rush leaves children feeling tired soon after.
Children shouldn't be having more than 6 teaspoons of sugar per day. So 6 4 is 24, that's about 24 grams of sugar. So if you look at the nutrition facts label, you'll realize that most of these box juices that we're giving the children are excessive in terms of the sugar that they're consuming. And then we wonder why the children won't sit and stay still. And I mean, even with the snacks that we're giving them, a lot of them are empty calories. So it has a lot of salt and fat and coloring, and they're are issues with the coloring as well. We want to ensure that we take away a lot of those excess juices. I feel that we think children have to have juice, and that's a big misnomer. They really don't need juice. Water is just fine.
So, what parents and guardians should be focused on is giving children more wholesome foods, even if they are picky eaters.
Have them try a variety of things from day one. And just like walking, you have to fall down a couple times before you can actually do it. So just because they refuse it once, don't believe that they will always not want it. So try multiple times, try different ways to help them to taste it. Help them to have control, because what happens sometimes when we force it on them, they have a negative connection to the food itself, and maybe it's not the food. Sometimes it can be textures, sometimes it can be the smell, sometimes it can be the colors. So that's why processed food, they are more able to accept it because it's the same thing all the time. But watermelon might be sweeter or fresh on a different day. Other fruits have different flavors, so they don't necessarily trust it. I know it's frustrating as parents because we just want the children to eat, but sometimes we need to dig a little bit deeper. So just think about how you feel as an adult when you don't eat breakfast. You feel cranky, right? So just imagine the children. They are unfocused, they're going to school, they're unsettled. Breakfast is very important. It doesn't necessarily have to be something heavy either. I mean, a sandwich is fine. We want to use the multi-mix principle where you're getting something from at least 3 food groups at any given time. So bread is already carbohydrates, probably some egg, that's your protein, and then you probably want to give our fruit, whether an orange, an apple, mango, whatever it is that we have in season. We're very fruitful. A lot of times we think that let children be children, let them eat whatever they want because it won't affect them. No, but studies are showing that the earlier they're eating the unhealthy foods, they're more likely to have overweight and obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol going up into older life. As a matter of fact, most recently I spoke with a pediatrician. She's saying that when she studied, she didn't know that she'll be seeing fatty liver and type 2 diabetes in her office, because when she was studying, that was adult illnesses. So what we're feeding our children is affecting them much sooner and more gravely than we expected. So as parents, as the adults that have the handle, let us do as best as we can to encourage a healthy lifestyle in the children.
Hey there, I'm Landy, your friendly guide to NLA Connect, the National Land Agency's customer engagement platform. Today we'll be navigating our page with some frequently asked questions.
Hey Landy, what's NLA Connect?
Hey there. NLA Connect is a simple, user-friendly online platform that's available 24/7 to customers, where they can submit various requests about land-related matters.
Hi Landy, how do I submit a request to NLA Connect?
Hi customer. Once on the platform, click Request and fill out the form with your details. Choose the relevant division and select the type of request. Pick your preferred response method, review, and consent to the privacy notice. Then submit. You will receive a case number to track your request.
Tell me something, Landy. Can you submit more than one request at a time?
No, you can only submit one request type at a time. Once that case is closed, feel free to send in another.
Landy, am I able to track my request?
Yes. To track your request status, click the Status tab, enter your email or case number, verify with the code sent to your email, and then view updates ranging from submitted to closed.
How does the NLA treat my data?
Our privacy policy is in accordance with the Data Protection Act 2020. As a result, some of the technical measures used to protect your data includes firewalls, encryptions, and regular system updates. Also, our employees are only provided with your information on a need-to-know basis.
Still have questions? Visit www.nla.gov.jm. Go to Applications, select NLA Connect, and check out our FAQs tab for more information.
NLA Connect, your voice, our priority.
We've come to the end of today's show. I do hope you enjoyed this package. To catch a repeat of this or any other, feel free to log on to our website at gis.gov.jm. Until next time, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Walk good.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.